What's up, guys? We got a stacked UFC card this weekend, and I'm going to go over the full card picks and breakdowns for each fight. So let's get into it. First fight, we do have Killian Salkilld versus Yanal Ashmouz. My pick is going to be Killian Salkilld. This is a banger matchup, and I feel that we don't really know the potential of Yanal because in his fight versus Chris Duncan, he broke his wrist early in the first round. So we didn't really get to see how well he would do against a decent fighter like that. But when it came to a non-decent fighter like Trevor Peek, Yanal Ashmouz was able to get the takedowns and pretty much maul him. And the only fight we have of Killian in the UFC was his last fight, which ended in 19 seconds. And it could have been a bit of an early stoppage, some might argue, but in my opinion, he was about to finish that fight, and he probably would have TKO'd him. And if not, he could have just laid on top of him for the rest of the round, probably got like a 10-8 round. But even then, who knows? Maybe uh, what's his name, the Indian fighter that got knocked out. Maybe he could have came back in rounds two or three, but I do believe it was a good stoppage in my opinion. Killian, he's very confident coming into this matchup. He's very athletic, and I feel on the feet he's going to be a lot more fluid than Yanal Ashmouz. Yanal early on in the fight, he's going to have these big power shots, and it's up to Killian to avoid those shots. And if he's able to avoid those shots, he will be able to pick him apart on the feet, I believe. And once Yanal realizes that he's not going to be able to land those big shots on Killian, he's going to start wrestling. And if Killian can uh, stuff the takedowns, then he's going to win this fight. And it's a question of, do you believe that Killian can stuff the takedowns of Yanal Ashmouz, the one that he was using against Trevor Peek and dominating him? I don't believe that Killian is Trevor Peek's level. I believe Killian is a lot better, so he's going to be able to be a lot more athletic and sprawl away from those takedowns and keep it on the feet and pretty much pick him apart as the fight goes on. So once Killian avoids those takedowns, Yanal's going to start to fade during the rest of the fight as the fight gets into the later rounds, like late two and then early three. I feel Killian's going to look like the better fighter in there and landing the more powerful shots. So Killian, I just see him being faster, more composed, and he's not going to use shots that are obviously going to be loaded up enough for Yanal to duck under and get the takedowns. I feel he's very tight with his boxing and he's going to have good, clean shots landing on Yanal. Not anything that's going. He's not gonna overdo it or overpower it, overthrow it, so Yanal can take advantage. And if he does get a takedown, I believe Killian is athletic enough to get back up and start picking him apart on the feet. And I do believe the win of Alexander Volkanovski and um, Alexander Volkanovski just won the belt, and so did JDM. And I feel that is gonna carry a lot of momentum for Killian as well. He takes a lot of pride in being an Aussie, and he's always saying how fighting an Aussie is a whole different level, and he's coming into this with the momentum of their wins and repping their country. And I believe that that confidence is going to help him out a lot in this fight. And even in the striking, I do feel that Yanal isn't on Killian's level at all. He'll just power boost you, try to get a quick knockout. But if you avoid that, you can pretty much outstrike him. And if you have good takedown defense, you can beat Yanal. So I'm picking Killian to sprawl stuff and pick him apart on the feet. And yeah, Killian is not going to be having the same performance as Trevor Peak did against Yanal. I feel Killian he might actually be the real deal. Next fight on the card, we have Jeka Saragih versus Joo-sang Yu. So before I found out, my pick is going to be Joo-sang Yu, but before I found out who Joo-sang Yu was, like I I was doing a lot of research on this guy, and when I found out who he was, I was literally in awe by this guy, like undefeated. Um, let me like read the notes that I wrote about this guy because when I first found out who this guy was, my mind was blown. Like he's literally the real deal. He's truly like a one of a kind fighter, and I feel he's going to completely dominate this fight. So this is basically what I wrote when I found out who he was. I said, Ju Sang Yu, this guy is sick. He has insane striking. He's a very smart fighter. He breaks you down. Very beautiful technique. Great elbows on the clinch. Great takedown defense. Very calm. Beautiful distance management. Great head kicks. Great spinning back kicks. Beautiful footwork. He is coming off a first round knockout. He's been to the decision 4 times. So we know he can go all 3 rounds. He has cardio. In the third round, it looks like the fight hasn't even started for him when his opponent is just barely there, gasping for air, and he's looking for space to breathe. He's an undefeated, of course, but against non UFC level. And on top of that, he has a really sick back tattoo. So Ju Sang Yu, he's actually trained with Max Holloway, and I've seen videos of Max Holloway praising this guy, saying he will be fighting guys in the top 15 of the division. So yeah, I'm pretty sure he can take care of Jeka Sergey, who's 1-2 in the UFC, and Ju Sang Yu, he's going to have a really great UFC debut. He's definitely my most confident pick on this card. Just go back and watch some of this guy's fights. You will be very shocked at how good he is, because he's really good. You know, Jeka Sergey, he has a first round knockout. I don't know if it was in the first round actually, but he has a flashy knockout that looked really good. But when he landed that shot on the opposition, he loaded up like super obviously, and doing that against someone like Zhu Sang Yu, you're gonna get countered. He's not gonna be there when you try to hit him, and it's easy to get a knockout like that when you're loading up from 10 miles away, like clearly going, you know, it was just against a really low level competitor. But yeah, it was just a very obvious shot. And so I see in like the promotion of this fight, they're using that clip to like try to hype him up. But you're not going to be landing anything like that against this guy, Ju Sang Yu. I'm riding with Ju Sang Yu. He's going to be sharper, smarter, and just levels above um, Jeka Sergey. He's definitely my most confident pick on the whole entire fight card. So moving on to the next fight, we have Ariane da Silva versus Wang Cong. I believe that's not how you pronounce her name, but let's call her Wang Kong because that's how it's spelled. My pick is going to be Wang Kong. You know, there was a interview of Ariane da Silva saying how excited she was to have this matchup because it's going to be striker versus striker, and it's going to make her very excited for this matchup. She's going to have a lot of fun in this matchup because of it's going to be striking. And if Ariane da Silva is planning to come into this fight and just strike with her, I believe that's not going to be a good game plan or idea for Ariane da Silva because I believe Wayne Kong's striking is going to be probably one of the best striking that we've seen in this division. She has really good and beautiful striking technique. And if this is going to be a striker versus striker matchup, I'm going Wang Kong all day. You know, Ariane. Ariane De Silva, she's been in the UFC for a while, but she's never really broken through. Wang Kong is a seasoned kickboxer. She has a win over Valentina Shevchenko before the UFC. She looked fantastic in her last fight, and just her fighting is just beautiful to watch. She really knows what she's doing out there. She has great footwork. She's calm, calculating, and just a lot better technically. I feel Ariane De Silva is gonna be pressuring forward, but it's a style that Wang Kong has seen before, and I feel Wang Kong is going to be able to take care of a style like that. The only way Ariane De Silva could win this fight, I believe, is by submission, and I believe Wang Kong's takedown defense is going to hold up because Ariane De Silva was saying, "Oh, Wang Kong is going to be shooting for takedowns," when I think that Ariane De Silva might be the one shooting for takedowns after she realizes the striking difference in hers versus Wang Kong. I believe Wang Kong is going to be the better kickboxer of the two. I think she'll have good takedown defense. Um, I just think Wang Kong is going to be clearly winning the fight. She's going to be the cleaner striker, and it's simple as that. I feel this is an easy win for Wang Kong, and it's probably my second most confident pick on the whole card. So right after Joo-sang Yu, probably my second most confident pick is Wang Kong. Next up on the card, we have. I believe this fight is canceled, so we're gonna skip this fight because Uros Medic, Uros Medics need a medic. He needs a medic for this fight, so we're gonna skip that fight. All right, that wasn't funny. Anyways, we got 7-11. Sergey Spivak versus Waldo Cortes-Acosta. This is a banger fight. I like this fight right here. My pick is going to be Waldo Cortez Acosta. Spivak. I can't really say his name. None of these guys. Anyways, Sergey Spivak. He's solid, but I feel during fights that he has versus like really elite guys or guys with like good potential, he crumbles. He folds under the pressure. We have Waldo, who's on a four-fight win streak. He just knocked out Ryan Spann, and he shows real composure and power. Spivak might get the takedowns early, but I think Waldo keeps it standing over time, over the fight, and he will outstrike him. Spivak, he's lost to guys like Serial Gan, Gelatin Almeida, Tom Aspinall, and Tom Aspinall is a champion right now, so that's okay. But these guys are high level. The guys that he's losing to are high level. And the question is, do you believe that Waldo is high level as well? Do you believe that he's going to be at the top of the division? And in my opinion, he seems like he's on a path to towards the top of the division. And I feel like a lot of people are doubting him, especially in this matchup. Waldo, the reason why I'm leaning Waldo, or one of the reasons why I'm leaning towards Waldo, is because he has a win over Thomas Peterson, and in my opinion, that's like a really solid win. He has a win over Thomas Peterson 3 years ago in the LFA, and that's a pretty solid win. Someone who kind of fights similarly, kind of to Spivak, and I feel that Waldo just has more momentum right now, and we kind of know what Spivak is about. He loses to the top guys, and Waldo has a lot of potential, and he has a lot of room to grow in the sport. And I feel that he may lose the first round, he might get taken down, and he might get laid on top of. But don't get it twisted because Waldo has good takedowns as well. He'll go for a takedown as well, and I believe that he will be able to stay balanced for rounds 2 and 3 after getting taken down in the first, and he'll just pretty much outstrike Spivak. He just won't accept the bottom position. So Waldo's momentum, his athleticism, and his striking, I believe, is enough to win him this fight. Next up on the card, we have Azamat Murzakanov, not versus Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker is out. X. and replacing him is Brendson Ribero. Look, guys, I thought long and hard about this pick, and it was troubling me picking a fighter between Brendson Ribero versus Azamat Murzakanov, but I did end up going with Azamat. This is going to be a lot closer than the odds suggest. That's all I'm gonna say. Azamat, he's very patient. He's explosive and he's calculated. And with every shot that he throws, he's gonna sting you. And on top of that, he has the ability to wrestle when he needs to. So an all well-rounded fighter. Whereas Brendson has a lot of tools. He has good reach, very dangerous jiu-jitsu, decent striking volume. But the problem with Brendson is that he's inconsistent. Some fights he looks really good, other fights he doesn't. And at the end of the day, I'm going with Azamat because of his consistency. He's consistently winning in the UFC, and he has more UFC wins than Brendson. He's undefeated, and he finds a way to win. And the inconsistency of Brendson is why I'm not choosing him to win this fight. You know, Azamat, he's the thing that worries me most is the reach advantage. Brendanson's going to have an 81-inch reach versus 71 inches in reach. You know, 71. Even Johnny Walker, 82 inches in reach. Like, if he was fighting Johnny Walker, I think he would have been fine. But 81-inch reach for Brendson Ribero, someone that kind of knows what he's doing in the striking. That worries me. But Azamat, he's light on his feet, bounces in and out, and he's super safe. He doesn't rush anything. He strikes you like a cobra. His power is still there in the later rounds, and he has good technique. He does his thing with his lead hand, where he kind of just waves it in front of his opponent, and that makes fighters. He makes his opponents really uncomfortable. That makes fighters really uncomfortable because they start to second guess themselves, and it's a way for him to kind of cover the distance. It's like a feint. You don't know if it's gonna like, pop out with a jab, and it's also a distraction that keeps you focused on it until a big right hand slams you on the face. That's the way this guy fights. He's really smart. And when Azamat fought when Azamat fought Dustin Jacoby, he didn't have a problem covering that distance with Dustin. And that's kind of what gives me confidence in Azamat being able to do that here. But 81-inch reach versus 71-inch reach, that's very crazy in a matchup like this. But I think Azamat will have to wrestle in this fight, and he will have to worry about some of Brendonson's jiu-jitsu because he has great submissions. I think when it comes to athleticism, I feel it's pretty obvious that it's safe to say that Brendson is going to be the more athletic fighter. But Azamat, I feel he's the overall better fighter. Brendson has more athleticism, whereas Azamat is just the overall better fighter, and he has more ways to win. I'm leaning Azamat because he's just more consistent. He has better power, and he can wrestle if he needs to. But honestly, Brendson, he looked really good in his last fight. So against an out of shape guy, and I'm not saying he's out of shape, but Brendson's clearly going to be a lot more in shape. But that's not really been a problem for Azamat, because even in the later rounds, he still has power. He's still dangerous, and he seems like he knows what he's doing. His nickname is the Professional. I think he'll be all right. I think he'll be fine. Plus, he is Russian, so you're good. You should you should be okay. But I'm personally staying away from that fight because um I don't know, Brendson, he just pulls one out of his sleeve every now and then. Like his last fight, he was a huge underdog against someone fat and shorter than him, kind of like him. But Asmat's a lot more consistent, and Dr. Nergazai, the last guy he fought, was also undefeated, but that was his UFC debut. Azamat has a lot of UFC wins already, and so that gives me a lot of confidence in Azamat. Moving on, let's move on. Let's move on. We got Bruno Silva versus Joshua Van. This is a great fight. I love Joshua Van. He's a great fighter, and I'm picking him to win this fight. You know, Joshua Van, he's just a dog, and his boxing is just so slick. He has nasty counters. He has amazing pressure. He's always coming forward, slipping, throwing his own shots, ripping to the body, and he never accepts a bad position. Bruno Silva, he's wild and he's super fast, but he does get hit. You know, he takes damage, especially to the body. You know, he gets hit to the body pretty uh, common. It's pretty common for him to get hit to the body, and you already know someone like Joshua is going to exploit that. He loves ripping to the body, and as the fight goes on, Joshua tends to get really nice head movement. You know, he kind of downloads your striking patterns, and then he kind of just knows what you're gonna throw. He gets into his flow state, slips, rips. It's hard to bet against someone like Joshua when he's fighting someone shorter than him. You know, he's going to be an inch taller than him, and it's hard to bet against Joshua when his only loss in the UFC was to literally the tallest fighter on the roster, the tallest flyweight, and I forgot his name. Yeah, I forgot his name, but literally the tallest flyweight. He fought him, and it was on short notice as well. He put up a good fight, but then he ended up losing in the third round. I just see Van dominating this fight. He's younger, a lot younger. He's going to be a lot sharper, and he's just more well-rounded. When especially in the striking, I feel he's going to outdog Bruno. Bruno might land a shot or two, but that's not going to put Joshua Van away. Yeah, I think just the youth, the athleticism, the sharpness, the counters, Joshua Van's pressure, he's gonna be sharper. It's just I feel this is a really good matchup for him. You know, both 14 wins, but six losses for Bruno Silva, two losses for Joshua Van, and the only loss in the UFC was to a really tall fighter that he took on short notice. Like I think Joshua Van's gonna be okay here, but Bruno Silva is really good. You know, he's really good, but the thing that is giving me confidence in Joshua Van is, Bruno Silva just lost to Manel Cape, and that's not a bad loss. But the thing about Joshua Van is that he's durable and he can land really nice shots on Bruno Silva, and Bruno Silva does get hit, you know. So that's why I'm leaning Joshua Van. But it should be a good fight. I really don't know about the minus 550 odds. I think it's just because of the momentum that Joshua Van is carrying, and he's kind of like a fan favorite, you know. He's like 23 years old right now, um, a year younger than me, and he kind of just is balling out right now, you know. He's very much on the come up, and everyone has his eye on him. And I feel like this is a perfect matchup for him in a way, you know. So he's going to show out on this fight. I think he's going to be okay here. Those are crazy odds. Those are crazy odds, but I do believe he's going to win. Bruno Silva does have a lot of experience though, a lot older. So we'll see how it plays out. I'm leaning Joshua Van because of his sharpness, his pressure, and I just see him dominating this fight really from start to finish. Even if he gets hit, he's going to be okay. And Bruno Silva, he gets hit. So I think Joshua Van by decision is a safe bet. Next fight on the card, we do have Vicente Luque versus Kevin Holland. So my pick for this fight, it's going to be Vicente Luque. I'm picking Vicente Luque to win this fight, and let me explain why. Ever since Vicente Luque's brain injury that he had, he's been fighting a lot smarter. He doesn't like to brawl anymore. He plays it safe, he grapples more, and he avoids the danger. You know, Holland, he's really fun, but he's inconsistent and he still fights a bit too playful, you know? Nowadays, Vicente, he's very quick to jump on a submission. He doesn't waste time and he doesn't want to brawl. He has, like I said, become a lot more safe and he's been fighting a lot more smarter and he's more aware. Whereas Kevin doesn't have that insane power to kind of scare Luque. You know, when Luque was fighting Joquan Buckley, he felt that power and he was like, okay, I'm not trying to get another brain bleed. Let me just crumble and end the fight. Just quit, you know? I don't see that happening with Kevin Holland. And I feel Vicente is not going to be scared of the striking enough to quit, you know? Joquan Buckley was trying to take his head off. And I feel Vicente has just been a lot more professional lately in the way he fights. And the only reason he would quit would be because of a brain injury scare. And I don't think Kevin Holland's the type to do that. If anything, Kevin's going to pick you apart, maybe land a nice shot. But Vicente has been very quick to grapple, go for a submission, and play it safe, stall against defensive if he has to. I feel he's going to be the much smarter fighter in there. But to Kevin's credit, he recently has been only losing to really good fighters, you know? But in my opinion, Vicente Luque is going to be a step ahead. He's going to be more motivated than someone like Kevin Holland, who's kind of in there as a fan favorite, having fun. Vicente actually wants to win. He has a lot more experience. He's more focused, more professional, and I think he'll edge this one out. So give me Vicente Luque to win this fight. And I'm pretty sure he is a big underdog. Not a big underdog, but he's an underdog, just like he was in his last fight, I believe. So yeah, a lot of people are calling him out because of the what he's turned into ever since the brain injury, but I feel that kind of just made him a lot more smarter. And he's not going to get scared of Kevin Holland striking, you know? He has a lot of experience. He's dealt with like really good strikers. And I feel the only reason he would fold or quit would be because of crazy power coming his way, you know? And I just don't see Kevin being having that scare for Vicente Luque. So that's why I'm going Vicente Luque, more professional, more smarter, more focused, actually taking it seriously. I think he'll edge this one out. He'll wrestle, he'll get a submission. Yeah, I'm going Vicente Luque. Kevin Holland not even ranked. Like I swear he's fighting every other 2 weeks. Like whatever. Next fight on the card we have Mario Bautista versus Patchy Mix. Patrick Mix. My pick for this fight is going to be Mario Bautista. I'm picking Mario Bautista to win this fight. Let me talk about Patrick Mix. He's coming in from another organization and he's very well known as a fighter. People are very excited to see him in the UFC. He's very slick in his boxing. He's super composed as well. He hits very accurately and he's also great in the clinch as well. And he's a great grappler. You know, he's a good fighter. He's a great fighter. You know, when I watch him fight, he kind of reminds me. He kind of has like a similar build to Carlos Prates, but like a lot smaller than Carlos. You know, kind of like the skin tone and like the build, the shape, and kind of just how accurately he strikes. But he also has a bit of like Aljo Marine Sterling to him because of his well-roundedness as a fighter. So he's a great fighter, you know. It's a good addition to the UFC. But when it comes to Mario Bautista, this guy is non-stop pressure. He's striking, he's feinting, he's doing takedowns, he's doing clinch work. He does it all like all at once, you know? Patrick, he'll be the one that's landing shots more accurately, I feel. But I feel Mario Bautista's volume and versatility in his strikes and in his moves and what he's showing him and what he's putting out there, it's going to overwhelm Patrick Mix. And I don't think Mario will be able to lay on him like the way he laid on Jose Aldo against the fence. I mean, maybe he does, who knows? But I don't think he'll be able to do that to Patchy Mix. But I can count on Mario to be more active in there. Mario is super active. When you watch him fight, he throws a kick, he throws a 1-2, he gets you thinking about all these things, and then boom, he shoots a takedown. And then once you stuff the takedown, he's grinding you out on the fence. And then you push him off the fence, he's throwing an overhand, and then boom, he's jabbing you, and then another jab, and then he's right back on you on the fence. Like this guy is just always doing something. He's always overwhelming you with that pressure. You never know what he's gonna do, and that can be so overwhelming for fighters. You know, Mario Bautista has a ton of UFC experience. He beat someone like Damon Blackshear, which is a great win, and he just beat Jose Aldo. You know, like he got the win, regardless of how he got it. He found the way to win. So I think the volume will be too much for Patrick. I think Patrick, he will land some shots. He will be accurate in his strikes, but Mario will have the more damage and more volume. You know, I highly rate Mario Bautista as a fighter. He has good feints, good head movement, good all well-roundedness. Like I said, ton of UFC experience. Very unpredictable. You never know what he's gonna throw next, and he's always throwing something to keep you guessing what he's gonna throw. Who's the favorite in this fight? I'm not sure. I believe Mario's an underdog in this fight, which is kind of crazy for me, but a lot of people are high on Patrick. Mario has good angles. He has good footwork as well. He can manage distance, and he doesn't run into shots. I feel this is going to be Mario's fight. You know, I feel Mario Bautista will win this fight. And just still unproven in the UFC, you know. Patrick, you know, from the eye test, he looks good. He reminds me of Carlos Prates on the feet. He's a good grappler. You know, you give him his neck, he's hanging on there. But Mario's seen all these things, and he's doing really well on in the UFC right now. He's winning, and I feel he's found his groove. You know, he's doing his thing right now. So I'm going with Mario to win this fight. But it would be cool to see Patrick come in here and knock him out. It would be cool, but I just don't see that happening. Next fight on the card, we have Kelvin Gastelum versus Joe Body Bags Pyfer. I'm going Joe Pyfer. I'm going Joe Pyfer, and let me explain why. So I'm going to give you the last 9 fights that Kelvin Gastelum had. We can even do 10 if you want, but last 9 fights, okay? Last 9 fights, he's 3-6, right? Okay, so let's name those fighters, okay? The last 9 fights: Israel Adesanya, Darren Till, Jack Hermanson, Jared Cannonier, Robert Whitaker, Ian Heinisch, Heinisch, Sean Brady, Chris Curtis, Daniel Rodriguez. And out of those fighters, he only beat 3. Okay? He beat 3 of those fighters, and those fighters are Daniel Rodriguez, Chris Curtis, and Ian Heinchik, whoever that is. You know, I don't know who that is. But just hearing that in itself, you kind of realize when he faces someone with size, with momentum, with potential, someone on the upside, he will fold. He will lose the fight, you know? Beating guys like Chris Curtis, Daniel Rodriguez, Ian Heinchik, Heinisch, I really don't know how to say it. Those are not great wins, you know? Those are not great wins. And they're not like, oh my God, like this guy, like, come on, Joey's on the come up. And Kelvin, he's been in the UFC for so long, ever since like 2017 or something. And he's been nothing more than average. Like, yeah, he had his peak. He almost beat Israel Adesanya, but that's kind of what he's known for. Knocked out Michael Bisping, which is a good win as well in his time, but he did knock out a washed Bisping. When he faces someone with size, momentum, he folds. And Joe Pyfer has all of that. Joe Pyfer has all that. He's longer, he's stronger, he's gonna be more technical, and he is best friends with Sean Brady, who already beat Kelvin Gastelum. He's learning from Sean Brady. Who's literally who's at the top of his division. So when it comes to the fighting, Kelvin has a traditional kind of like a Mexican walk you down type of fight style where he has really nice overhands. When you guard up, that's when he'll swarm you with punches. He seems very durable enough. He can take punishment and still come forward. And we know Joe Pyfer he has had trouble with his opponents being durable. When he beat up Jack Hermanson for the first round and a half, he kind of threw everything at Jack Hermanson, and then he gassed out. And then Jack Hermanson came back and beat him up in the later rounds. And that ended up costing Joe Pyfer that fight. But Joe Pyfer seems like he understands not to gas himself out anymore. I feel he learned from that, and he's not going to throw everything all at once against someone who's very durable in Kelvin Gastelum, and he understands that Kelvin Gastelum is very durable. So knowing that Joe, he's not gonna rush it. I don't think he's going to rush it. He's going to land some nice shots on the feet in the first round, second round, and when he gets him hurt, he's not gonna swarm. I don't think he will swarm. Maybe he'll go for the finish if it's really there, but he doesn't want to get gassed out like he did in the Jack Hermanson fight. I think he learned from that, and we pretty much know what Kelvin's going to do. You know, he's pretty predictable at this point. I feel Joe is just going to be better at everything, physical wise, taller, longer, stronger, and in his skill wise, he's going to be smarter in there. You know, the only way I see Kelvin winning, maybe grinding him out on the fence, but even then, Joe will maneuver, get out of there, and then throw some elbows on the clinch, land nasty right hands down the middle, and I don't think Kelvin's going to take down Joe Pyfer. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think he's going to just lay on top of him. I'd be very surprised if Kelvin wins this fight. He eats a bunch of shots in the first round, second round. Joe Pyfer's tired. Kelvin's super durable, and then comes back and throws haymakers at Joe. Wins the fight. That already happened to Joe, and I don't feel Joe's going to let that happen again. And I just feel that reach advantage that he has. What is it? 75, 72. All right, not the craziest reach advantage. 41, 30. Okay. I just feel how tall. Okay, 6'2" to 5'9". Yeah. Kelvin might have a hard time like covering the distance before getting hit. So I'm going Joe Pyfer on this one. And I just feel this is a lot of people that think Kelvin's going to win just think he's going to eat shots, be durable. But I feel he's going to get hurt when he eats a shot by Joe. And Joe's not going to rush it anymore. He's going to be calm and just pick him apart. Plus, he has a best friend who already beat Kelvin Gastelum, which is a huge advantage. So, yeah. Plus, Joe just got a hair transplant. And you look at the record of the guys fighting in the UFC post hair transplant, they're doing really, really good. I don't think I've seen one guy with a hair transplant lose, so he's carrying that momentum as well. this is I feel it's just too easy of a pick, you know? Like it's almost like too easy, and when it feels too easy, it's like that's kind of scary. It's just like I'm so confident in Joe to win this fight that I don't think it's going to be competitive. Like I said in the beginning when I was breaking down this fight, Kelvin's last wins. You know, if you want to go back to his 10th fight, his 10th fight was Jacare Souza, and he beat him, which is okay. That's a decent win back in like 10 fights ago for Kelvin Gastelum. But recently, his last three wins, like I said, Daniel Rodriguez, Chris Curtis, Ian Heinrich, whoever his like those guys are not at the same level as Joe Pyfer. And when it comes to someone that's on the rise or elite, Kelvin loses. And I do believe Joe is a lot better than Daniel Rodriguez, Chris Curtis, Ian Heinrich, and he could be considered to be on his way to the same category as people like Izzy, Darren Till, Jack Hermanson, Darren Till when he was at the top of his division. Jared Cannonier beat him. Robert Whitaker beat him. Sean Brady beat him. I think this is too easy of a pick. Like third most confident pick on the fight, Joe Pyfer. You want a three-piece parlay: Joe Pyfer, Cong Wang, and Joo-sang Woo. Those guys, like, how do they lose? How do they lose? I don't see it happening. Next fight on the card. Next fight on the card, we have the Hulk, Kayla Harrison. Does she have a nickname? I'm not sure. Versus the champion Juliana Pena. My pick for this fight is going to be Kayla Harrison, and it's going to be Kayla Harrison all day. You know, one thing that should be mentioned in this fight for Juliana Pena is that she has a win over Amanda Nunes, which is pretty cool, but that won't matter here. You're not fighting Amanda Nunes here. You're fighting Kayla Harrison, and I feel Kayla is going to just be too strong. Juliana was getting hit in her last fight, and to win, she had to get some takedowns. And I don't believe she's going to be able to get the takedowns on someone like Kayla Harrison. Look at her arm. Wait, can I just? Nah, whatever. But look at her arm, bro. Okay. Um, I just think Kayla has that man strength. A lot of people are saying that she's on something. She's taking things that she's not supposed to be on to have that build. I wouldn't be surprised if that was true, but look at the way she's built and look at the way she's built. This is a man's body right here. Look at her traps. You're not taking that person down. Look at her thighs. Look at her thighs. It's like this is like a tough, scary person to try and bully and take down. I don't see that happening. When you have to get the takedown, it's not happening against Kayla. She'll be more dominant physically. She'll control the position and she'll grind her out. Kayla wins this fight probably inside the distance, and Kayla just has that mindset where she just seems like the type of person who is going to win by any means necessary. She's not going to enjoy or accept a loss. She's the type of person to battle through any adversity to try and get that win. And just that will and the the will to win, it's going to be too much for her. Especially when your will is that strong and your physical body is that strong, coming up against someone that gets hit. She's shorter as well. Juliana Pena is shorter. She gets hit. Kayla Harrison, she's a physical beast, like Olympic judo wrestler, champion, medalist, whatever, all that. I just don't see how Kayla Harrison will lose this fight. Yeah, I just see Kayla Harrison grabbing her and kind of just like John Jonesing her. John Jones versus like Stipe Miocic her. Like will be just too strong and will get her on the ground and just beat on her. Maybe even get a submission, but I feel Kayla will win this fight inside the distance. It's kind of destined for Kayla to come into the UFC and win the belt. It's like destiny, you know. I just don't see anyone stopping her, especially not Juliana Pena. Plus, people were even saying that Juliana Pena didn't even win her last fight. I don't know about that, but like to make it competitive versus Raquel Pennington, and then yeah, getting hit by her, going to have to get the takedowns. It's not happening versus Kayla Harrison. She's going to just look at her, bro. She's like, "You really think you're gonna beat me? Like, you're not." Boom, get grappled, get taken down, just get out physical. That's pretty what it comes down to. I'm just yapping on about Kayla Harrison, but she's a she's a breathtaking athlete. Next fight on the card, we are going on to the main event of the evening: Merab Dvalishvili versus Sean O'Malley. Look, my pick for this fight is going to be Merab Dvalishvili. And it kind of hurts to say that because I'm a huge Sean O'Malley fan. I'm a huge Sean O'Malley fan, you know. And you look at Sean O'Malley in the rematch that he had with Chito Vera. He was like, "Okay, I got my rematch. I'm going to prove to everyone that that fight was a fluke." And that's exactly what he did. And he was determined to make that known that he was the better fighter in that fight. And that's exactly what he did. He dominated Chito Vera all 5 rounds. And that makes me think that Sean O'Malley learns from rematches and he does really good in rematches, right? And he's claiming that this time he's healthy. But Marab is not Cheeto. When Sean O'Malley lost to Marab, he literally admitted that okay, he beat me. I lost, you know? Well, as soon as the fight ended, that's what he said. Like he admitted that okay, I lost. But when he lost to Cheeto, he was like, I didn't lose that fight. This was a fluke. And Sean O'Malley didn't say that he was a fluke. Like he literally had no answer to this fight. He literally said, "Okay, I lost the fight," and it was just a stylistic matchup. The Marab versus Sean, the grappler won this versus the striker. Marab is relentless. He's not Cheeto Vera. He has insane cardio, non-stop takedowns, and he's nearly impossible to hit clean. I think Marab's ability to avoid those big shots throughout the fight and their in their first fight was super impressive. To not get hit cleanly up until the fifth round, that was very impressive. The way he was able to manage distance and then close the distance to get the takedown, it was really impressive to see. And of course, some people are going to say, okay, O'Malley was injured or whatever, and now he's healthy. But it makes me think that if you were truly injured to the point where you didn't believe you could win, then you wouldn't have fought, you know? So he was healthy enough to think that he would win and still lost. So that's why I'm taking Marab. It should be a good fight because Sean O'Malley seems to do a lot better in rematches, but I just think Marab is a savage. It's just the grappling I feel will overpower the striking. And Marab is short, a lot shorter, 5'6" to 5'11". He's a lot shorter than Sean. And I feel that's going to make it a lot easier for Marab to get in on his hips. And it's going to be easy for him to get on his hips. And I didn't think Marab was be able to get close to Sean O'Malley's legs in the first fight without taking a punch, without getting hit. But he did a really good job closing the distance and managing the distance while they were in that striking range. He would be throwing like these weird air punches, trying to gauge distance, kind of distract O'Malley, and then boom, he'll shoot under. That was like really impressive to see. He did that the whole fight, and not to mention the streak that Marab is on, the guy that he's beating time and time again. Like, how can you doubt this guy anymore? He probably has the best. He probably has the best streak, the win streak in the UFC right now, considering who he's beat to get that win streak, beating every best fighter in his division. And I just think he's the man right now. And unless O'Malley lands something big, which is pretty predictable for Marab, like he understands, like, okay, this is what Sean O'Malley wants. He wants to hit something big. Unless Sean O'Malley does get that hit, he throws a feint uppercut and then comes back with an overhand right, like he did with Eddie Wineland. Like, unless something like that happens, I just think Marab's grappling is just going to be too much for him. And I'm not going to say that I'm confident in in doing so because Sean O'Malley, okay, yeah, he is coming in with no injuries, like he said. There's not going to be any excuses, and he tends to do good in rematches. So I'm not saying like I'm super confident that's going to happen. Sean O'Malley does have insane striking. He does insane unpredictability in his strikes, making you think he's going to throw something and throws another. But Marab knows all of this, and he's going to come up with a great game plan. He has a great coach, and he has a great will to prove that he's the best. His cardio is going to last. He seems very durable, and I just think it's going to be easy for him to cover the distance, get in on his legs, pick him up, and pretty much do what he wants. Maybe give him another kiss on his neck. So I just feel the grappling is going to be the difference maker in this fight. But I would love to see Sean O'Malley come out there, first round knockout, boom, change the trajectory of this whole division, bantamweight division, and I'd like to see him get his belt back. But Marab's just shown to be on a whole different level right now. I'm rooting for Sean. I like Sean, but it's a really tough matchup when you have a thick ogre, short ogre coming in on your legs, not just running into shots and getting hit. It's going to be a tough matchup for Sean. Even Tim Welch, Sean O'Malley's coach, has admitted that this is undoubtedly the greatest bantamweight. Like, you can't say anyone is better. Whoever you think is a better bantamweight than Marab beat them already. So he's undoubtedly the greatest, and they understand the task that is at hand for them. So yeah, I'm picking Marab. Just momentum on his side. He beat him already, but this should be a good fight. This should be a good fight. I don't think it's going to be the same. I think O'Malley, he's the type to learn from the rematches. He does better in rematches. He's the type to learn from his mistakes, and I don't see him making the same mistakes again. He understands that it's gonna be like, okay, if this happened in the first fight, I'm going to have to make sure this doesn't happen in the second fight, and he understands how much of a blessing it is to have this rematch. And I feel the UFC wants O'Malley to win. They want to have that superstar champion that everyone's excited for. He's a fan favorite. Everyone's looking forward to his fight. Him knocking out Marab, of course they want that to happen. That's why they're giving him this shot. So yeah, everything was lined up perfectly for O'Malley to get that knockout win over someone like Marab in their first fight, and O'Malley kind of just folded. Uh, he didn't rise to the occasion, and UFC would have loved that. So of course they want to give him another shot at it. And Marab's even said that he's pretty unmotivated for this fight because this is his first rematch ever in his professional career. So it's hard for him to find motivation. But even then, I just think his cardio, his relentlessness, his grappling, it's going to be a lot for Sean. But that's just me thinking with my head, but my heart is saying uh, Sean O'Malley. So we'll see what happens. I'm going Marab. I'd love to see Sean pull it out, but I just think Murab is on a whole different level right now. He's in his groove. And yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about these picks. Let me know your picks. I'm pretty much done with this fight card. This should be a good fight card. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you guys did enjoy the video, leave a like, leave a subscribe, and I plan on doing picks every week. Hopefully, I can get them out a week before the fight, every fight. So yeah, let's build this channel together, guys. Let's do it, boys. And I appreciate all of you, and I hope you all have a great day. Peace.